Okay, Jason. Bill Simmons last week released his NBA trade value column, which, like Bill Simmons, don't like Bill Simmons, doesn't matter how you feel. It's always an interesting column and gives a little perspective on how he feels certain players are valued across the league. And he made these rankings prior to the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade and the De'Aaron Fox trade, which is a little bit funny just considering the timing. So we're going to look at where he ranked the Cavs players, and we're going to come up with our own list to see if we agree with Bill Simmons' evaluation of how valuable each Cavalier is. He does his top 80, and 4 Cavs made the top 80. In his rankings, he takes into consideration a player's salary, their age, their length of contract, their current happiness / durability. So if in Jimmy Butler's case, he's clearly not happy, that hurts his trade value. These are real-life trade scenarios, and they concentrate on degrees. So there are levels of untouchable is basically what he's saying here. And there's levels of guys who you like but don't necessarily fall into the same category. So any questions on how he ranked them, Jason, before we dive into his rankings?
No, I'm not a huge Simmons guy, but I enjoy this. He does it every year, and I think it's fun.
It's a good exercise. All right, so the first Cavalier that falls on his group is Jarrett Allen, who falls into the valuable asset and great contract group. And Jarrett Allen ended up being number 47 on this list. He's in the same category of good asset, great contract with guys like Naz Reid, Lou Dort, Norm Powell, Austin Reeves, Derek White, who the Cavs played tonight, and Jarrett Allen himself. Jason, the number be damned, more the grouping. Does this feel like the right group for Jarrett Allen in terms of his overall trade value?
I think the category name is perfect for him. Valuable with a great contract. He's signed the extension. Obviously, he's under control for a number of years. It's hard to compare Jarrett Allen to Derek White, to Lou Dort. They're totally different animals. But for the category, yeah, I think it's right on.
Yeah, I have no argument either. That extension he signed before this season is going to age beautifully as the cap goes up. He's making $20 million this season. His extension goes up to like the low 30s. And when you see what some of the extensions the other all-star caliber players are going to be signing for with their starting salaries in the 60s and close to the 70s, you're getting Jarrett Allen for half the price of that. He is a good player on a great contract. I think that grouping is pretty spot on. Darius Garland falls in the next group for the Cavs. There's a couple groups in between Jarrett and Darius, but the Darius Garland category is basically cut the crap. No, he's not available. And the other players in this category were Stephon Castle of the Spurs, who is not part of the deal for De'Aaron Fox, Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, Desmond Bane, Darius Garland, and Jalen Suggs. I believe, if my memory is correct, Garland's in the 36, 37, somewhere right around that range. Jason, does this feel like the right grouping for one Darius Garland?
I guess I'll say yes. I don't think he is. He's having a phenomenal year. He's having a terrific year. He's having a great bounce back year. He's got a monster contract, and I don't know that I would put him in and he's basically calling him untouchable. I don't know that I would do that. I'm in no rush to trade him, but I don't know that I would have him in some sort of untouchable category.
I like the grouping. I don't know if I like the name of the group. Because the name of the group was, let me cut you some crap, no.
Yeah. That basically means we're not listening. If you call, I'm hanging.
Yeah, which I don't 100% agree with. But I think this group of players, Castle, Murphy, Daniels, Bane, Garland, Suggs, is the perfect pairing for Darius Garland in whatever category. Suggs has the big extension as well.
Yeah.
Bane signed the rookie max when he was eligible 2 years ago. Dyson Daniels, I'm not sure what his contract status is, but he's going to be in line for a big extension with how he's playing this year in Atlanta. Murphy signed the 3-year or 4-year, $120 million extension. He's at right around $30 million, a valuable wing for New Orleans. And Castle, a rookie, is blowing up in San Antonio. I like the pairing, Jason. I think the number in the high 30s is about right for DG. I just don't know if I love the naming of the group, but the pairing and the group itself, I think, is pretty accurate for Darius.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm hung up on the name. I would not put Darius Garland in an untouchable category. I would be in no rush to trade him. Certainly wouldn't shop him, but I don't think he's untouchable.
So the highest group in the Simmons rankings, numbers 1 through 8, were the absolutely under no circumstance will we trade this player. He called them the ultimate untouchables. And then in the second group, the one just above that, were his just untouchables. And 2 Cavs fell into this category, along with, there's more than just these 6 players, but 2 Cavs fell in this category. The untouchables were Amen Thompson, Devin Booker, Jalen Williams. Jalen Brunson was also in this group. Donovan, Evan, and Anthony Davis, who then was traded 2 days later, which I put the LOL there for. Donovan was ranked number 8 in this group, or number 9, in this group. And Mobley was either 11 or 12. I don't remember. He had Donovan slightly ahead of Evan Mobley. So, Jason, we're going to do our rankings in a sec. So don't weigh in on the should Donovan be ahead of Evan. But in the untouchable category, not the highest level, but the second highest level, does Evan and Donovan belong with this group?
Yeah. Evan was 13th.
13th.
And, I mean, it's funny because we just had the conversation on the show yesterday. If Dallas calls about Luka, what's your response? So, and I said I would absolutely trade Evan for Luka Doncic, and I wouldn't think twice about it. But aside from the nutty bonkers, once in a generation, once in a lifetime type of trade that we never, ever see, if you take out that, then yeah, that's the right spot for him.
Yeah. An untouchable is an untouchable unless an absolutely untouchable, someone in that top 8 becomes available, and then you can make the move. I think this is the utmost respect for Evan Mobley. And Simmons, when he did his column last season, had Evan in kind of the Jarrett Allen category of, it wasn't named the same, but it was in the high 40s range, saying, I love this guy's ceiling. He hasn't signed an extension yet, so I don't know what the contract's going to be. But this guy has more potential than I'd be willing to part ways with. And fast forward a year, and he's jumped into the top 15 of his trade value column with perennial all-pro, all-NBA guys like Anthony Davis and Devin Booker and Jalen Brunson. I love the fact that Simmons wasn't afraid to bump him up that high. Usually he's a little more step-by-step in terms of how high you rise in the rankings, unless you're a Wembanyama who was number 1 on this list. I think it's the utmost respect for Evan Mobley, and I think he absolutely belongs in the untouchable category. And the only way you'd consider moving him is if a guy like Luka Doncic or Wemby or Jokic or Giannis or SGA or someone in that completely untouchable 1 through 8 range became available. And even then, you'd have to think and consider, does it make my team better? Does it make sense with the parameters of my team? But if it's not for one of those couple guys, Jason, it's an immediate hang up.
Yeah, and you make a good point. Evan's going to his first All-Star game this year, and he's already on the top 15 of a list like that, top 13 of a list like that. It's no surprise really to you or I think we talked about earlier, we've been higher on him than a lot of people, and pretty adamant that he's got to be their best player if they're going to contend for a championship. And it's good to see him finally evolve into that player.
All right, so we did our own rankings, Jason. I came up with my own rankings, and I'm curious if you agree. So I did 15 through 1. So we're going to rank all the Cavs in terms of their trade value heading into the deadline. The first couple, the bottom of the list, not so interesting. I'm curious if you agree when we get to the very top. But let's start at 15 and move our way to 1. I think Tristan Thompson has the least trade value of anyone on this team. Amani Bates, 2nd. Craig Porter Jr., 13th. I thought Merrill and Niang, I went back and forth on this one, but I went Niang slightly ahead of Merrill, Jason, just because he has another year on his contract. And I have no idea what Merrill's value around the league is. I also made this before he hit 9 threes on Sunday. So maybe I could talk myself into putting him a tiny bit higher, but Niang's only making, it's not a great deal for Cleveland when you look at how infrequently they sign free agents, but his contract's pretty palatable. He's making less than $10 million a year. Yeah.
And I mean, trade value comes down to also who are you sending them to? If it's a veteran team looking for a big who can shoot threes, George Niang's could be a lot more valuable than Sam Merrill. If you're looking for a young team trying to take a flyer on a guy who isn't going anywhere right now, Sam Merrill will be pretty appealing to them.
So any issues 15 through 11?
No.
All right, 10 through 6. At 10, I had a Okoro, 9 LeVert, 8 Wade, 7 Ty Jerome, and 6 Max Strus. My thinking, I have no idea what Okoro's value is, Jason. I know he signed the extensions, 3 years, $30 million. Once again, $10 million, not crazy, but what do you think of Okoro? LeVert's a better player than some of the guys ahead of him, but he's on an expiring contract. Wade's at a very, very palatable $6 million next year. Jerome, you can convince me, should be even higher or should be even lower, but I don't know what his next contract's going to be, and he's an expiring. And I think Strus, if you offered him straight up, you can get a first-round pick back for Strus. I'm not sure if anyone below him would get you a first-round pick in return with their current contract status.
I would actually put Jerome higher. I'd have him above Max. Okoro, maybe you can bump Niang higher now that you see 6 through 10. We're squabbling over 1 or 2 spots. I don't think Okoro has a ton of value. Levert on an expiring. Dean, if he stayed healthy, I think would be very appealing to teams. I don't
Big
know.
if, though. Big
What's
if.
that?
Big if on the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it is. Ty Jerome, I mean, when I started digging in last week and looking, he basically has a PER identical to Donovan. And
Yeah.
Donovan's making 35
Incredible.
million.
Incredible.
It's unbelievable. So I would definitely have Ty higher. If you're talking, you're talking player, you're talking value. For what you're getting for the year that Ty Jerome is having, making $2.5 million is incredible value. To me, that's far more valuable than Max Strus on his contract.
So I made the argument, Jason, after the game. Who was before? I was at the Atlanta game. That there may not be a more valuable asset in basketball, not on a rookie contract, than Ty Jerome this season. You're getting 6 man of the year production on basically a league minimum deal. But considering he's at the expiring end of his deal, it's the last year, I just wasn't sure what his value would be in terms of a trade. So if you want to tell me he's higher, I think I'll buy into that. So I think I should switch Strus and Jerome, which would put Jerome at number 6 at a minimum and Strus at 5. And then, Jason, that brings us to our top 5. And the core 4 is the top 4. I had Jalen Tyson at 5 just because I think if it's a 1v1, considering how well he's played on a rookie deal with the unknown of what he could be, I think he's just a little more valuable. And I think Bill Simmons is wrong. I think he had the top 4 right, but I actually think Evan Mobley would be ahead of Donovan Mitchell in a straight trade value rankings because of the age, because of the untapped potential, because of the ceiling. No knock on Donovan. We know what his trade value is. He's been traded before. If the Cavs put Evan Mobley on the open market, I think they're getting back a ridiculous haul of picks, players, and you don't see many guys his age, Jason, with his skill set, his ability to defend, plus affect the game offensively now. I would have Mobley at 1 on the Cavs trade value list ahead of Donovan Mitchell, which is opposite of what Bill Simmons had.
I would actually bump Jerome all the way up to 5.
Jerome, okay. Jerome or Tyson. We'll do that on the show on Wednesday. I'll see what the other guys think. But
I'd bump Ty all the way up to 5.
I hear the point.
Tyson, I think, is too much of an unknown. He's been very good in short spurts, but I don't know. I would probably dump Tyson down a little bit more. But I agree with you at the top. I think Evan Mobley's number 1. I think Evan's number 1. I think Donovan's 2. And I would, again, Darius's contract is so massive, and there's so many good point guards in the league. I might even flip Jarrett and Darius and put Jarrett 3 and Darius 4.
I went back and forth on almost putting Darius at 2 just because of the age. I understand his contract is big, but it's not crazy with where the salary cap's going, Jason. Like, he's in the 45s. Yeah. Jaylen Brown's in the 65s. So it's a big contract, don't get me wrong, but it's not absurdly big. And the fact that he's still as young as he is, I think you may be selling short a little bit on the trade value.
I might be. But, and non-shooting centers don't command very much. Darius should probably command more. But at the top, I have no issue with Evan being number 1. I think that's absolutely right. He signed his max contract. It kicks in next year, but he's still on a rookie scale deal right now.